Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Talkin Kop. It's Friday, the 27th of December, and I don't know whether I'm going mad or not, but that intro sounds like it's like unwell. It sounds way slower than it usually does, or is that just me?
I'd
I
say
felt
it's
like
just you.
I felt like I was listening. I was like, "Come on, mate, hurry up! You're usually quicker than this." But I
Well,
don't know.
maybe it's
Maybe
not
it's
used to coming out on a Friday.
yeah,
It's
maybe
like
it's like fuck this, not again. But anyway, it's Gav, it's Kev, it's Ashley, and it's Chris, and we are. This is a member show for everyone that are members on YouTube, and we are going to talk about the title contenders. Now, when I put this show out earlier, Matt just went, "Oh, so you're just going to do a show talking about Liverpool, then, are you?" Because he's on holidays in Canada and he thinks he's really funny. But listen, that's not for me to judge. But we are going to talk about Liverpool. We're going to talk about Arsenal, Chelsea. We're going to give a mention to Nottingham Forest and Bournemouth, and we're going to talk about Man City as well. Kieran B is in the chat. He says, "Come on, Ipswich, get a late goal." Arsenal are currently winning 1-0 with a couple of minutes to go at home to Ipswich. Ipswich have had one shot all night, so I can't see Ipswich getting a goal. But stranger things have happened. But we will get into Arsenal later on. I'm going to start with Man City. Now, people will go, what are you even talking about these for in the conversation? I just want the reason I kind of want to talk about them is because it seems to be like a massive drop off in them. There's no doubt about it. Blaming Rodri or blaming the lack of Rodri seems a bit. I'm not having it. I'll take that Rodri is a huge miss, but I'm not having that. Only Rodri is the reason why City are 14 points off Liverpool. Haven't played a game more. They're currently behind Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest. But it's more around the fact that we go into this January and people are like, "Oh, Pep wants his players back," and you're like, "Okay," and then it's like they're going to spend big money, and I'm like, "Who's going there in these circumstances?" But Kev, I'll come to you first. Man City are not in a Premier League title race. I think that's fair to say. They aren't turning over 14 points over 20 games against Liverpool or indeed Arsenal. I think that might be 10-8 behind Arsenal at this stage. And they're not turning that over for me either. But where do you sit with them, Kev? Do you feel like they will do business in January to try reboot this squad a little bit and try put some sort of respect on the season and go into next? Or is it a case of, hold on, you have a lot of charges are hanging over you here and that's due to come out in the near enough future? Who is going to sign for that club with all that in the background?
yeah, they won't have a problem signing players. There's plenty of mercenaries out there. There's plenty of players willing to take the money, and they do have money. So I wouldn't worry about them their ability to sign players. There's a reason nobody's ever done five in a row. All right, I mean they've won four Premier League titles back to back, and for most of them they've been pushed. The difference is this last summer they sold really well, but they've bought horrendously badly. And throw in the Rodri one because Rodri is a huge miss, best player in the world over the last 12 months, huge miss. Also factor in the loss of Alvarez. And I was reading something earlier on. Erling Haaland has had one shot in 330 minutes of football. They can't find him on the pitch. So he, you're playing with virtually with 10 men, and it's confidence. It's they've hit a wall. You can name. There's multiple reasons why they are in the situation that they're in, but ultimately, I think it all boils down to recruitment. At the end of the day, we know how Guardiola. We talked about it before. You look at the wingers they used to have, the likes of Mahrez, Sane, Sterling, all had goal threats. They don't have a goal threat from wide anymore. They spent £100 million on Jack Grealish, and yet they've turned him into a functional footballer who gets free kicks. That's what he does now. You know, you watch Jack Grealish when he was at Villa, and he was running at players and creating and making things happen, bringing everyone into play. That Jack Grealish doesn't exist anymore. Kevin De Bruyne is over the hill, and their players are dropping like flies with injuries, mainly because of the volume of football some of the senior players have played over the last 4 or 5 years, where they just haven't had the turnover of players that they've needed. And the fear factor goes. You know, once the fear factor is gone for other sides, say, okay, we can contain Haaland. There isn't the threat of the ball from Kevin De Bruyne. We can manage them, and we've seen how other sides can hurt them on the counter. because they don't have. There's too many players in the midfield and at the back really that don't have a defensive note in their body. And once the fear factor goes, sides know they'll get chances, and the chances they're giving up, like us last season, the chances that they're giving up are good chances, and they're being capitalized on, and they're making hard work of so many games. It's not like they're being hammered out of existence in a lot of these games, but they're having to work really hard, even when they were in the first 10 games of the season when they were doing well, and we all thought, here we go again. But they were having to work really hard to get their 1-0s and their 2-1s and what have you for the first 10 or so games of the season. And then they literally hit the proverbial wall.
Yeah.
And a multitude of things happen. And they have a manager who doesn't have a background or anything in his toolbox to say he can manage this situation. He's never had to do this before.
Yeah.
This is the first time he's ever had to do this, and he doesn't know what to do. And he surrounded himself with people who can't tell him what to do.
It's actually it feels a bit like, taking the Liverpool kind of tinted glasses off. If you look at just City as for what they are, it seems a bit like a perfect storm. They win that fourth league title in a row. They have everything hanging over them with regards to the 115 charges that, let's be honest, if they're found guilty of that, it's going to tarnish everything they've done since about 2011. And the charges are between 2011 and 2018. But the fact is that if they're found guilty of those, everything that was done in 2011 and 2018 is a basis or a foundation for what they've done since in the last 6 years. So there's an awful lot going on that. I think that's definitely in their mind. They were quite, stern on, we'll defend ourselves. We've done nothing wrong. Pep was brought out and whatever else. And that seems to have got into them, particularly, I think, in the last 8-10 weeks. I think it's really got at them. They've lost Rodri, who, like Kev said, has been the best player in the world for the last year, but they have injuries, but everybody has them. And when they won titles in the last 4, 6, 8 years, you could always point to them and go, listen, they had the best squad to deal with the injuries or the suspensions, and now they just don't. They simply don't. And then you look at I think that the legs have fallen off a few. I agree with Kev. The legs have fallen off them. They're not as intense as they used to be. They're not as ambitious on the ball as I think they used to be. And then they're so easy to get in behind because they haven't got that press in midfield. So it's a perfect storm of everything. And probably the most important thing Kev said there was, I think they have a manager that just will not change the way he's playing. And maybe people will say, it's Pep Guardiola, why should he change? Look how successful he was. But like Kev said, he hasn't come across something like this in his whole managerial career. He's never had this downturn. And like, even when you put Pep Guardiola or you put Russell Martin or Vincent Kompany, if you're not willing to adapt, you're going to get hurt in this league, and it doesn't do you any good. It doesn't add strings to your bow. I don't think Guardiola needs any strings to his bow, but actually everything has gone wrong there. And while there's some sympathy, if you're just looking at it as it is a lot of it. Well, no, well, not from me personally. No, I've no sympathy for anybody in this division. Let me set that straight. But looking at it from a purely footballing sense, you would say, look, losing Rodri, you could have sympathy with them, but whatever it might be. But a lot of it is self-inflicted. It just is.
Yeah, I think most of it is. And I do think it's a perfect storm of a lot of different things that have kind of come to a head. And we've seen it with our teams where things have come to a head that maybe we didn't see coming, that maybe other teams looking from the outside in might have said, oh yeah, Liverpool should have done X, Y, and Z, and they could have prevented this from happening. I mean, as an outsider looking into the City thing, I think whether it's the recruitment that has really just felt off for the last couple of years that I think is starting to catch up with them. I think they've sold in a very arrogant manner, in a way that, a lot of these players that they've let go, they haven't replaced. I mean, I think there's probably things that are going on behind the scenes with the recruitment process. I think ever since they started being investigated under this microscope, I think they've had to be a lot more careful about the way that they've been doing their accounting. Again, I'm not trying to point the finger and say they're guilty of anything, but I do think that they've had to, they're constantly under a microscope now in a way that they might not have been in years past. And I don't think that they are doing the same kind of creative accounting that they might have done in years past. Because I think you're not seeing the same kind of wealth of signings. I feel like anytime Man City had a problem in years gone by, even if it was a little problem, they would upgrade. You know, the number of fullbacks that they just upgraded for almost no reason was silly, was really silly. And the fact that they didn't do that this time around with Alvarez leaving, they had plenty of time after Oscar Bob got injured to replace him. They didn't do that. And again, whether that's arrogance or because they're under a microscope or a little bit of both, I'm not sure. But that was their own doing. You know, both of those moves, Oscar Bob and Alvarez, were their own doing. So I have no sympathy there. I think, you know, having Rodri in your team is, you know, one of those things where it's very difficult to have an understudy. But, you know, they could have upgraded the understudies in that midfield. There are plenty of those midfielders that are aging, and the same way that our midfield fell off a cliff, you're seeing that with their midfield. So that, again, that's of their own making. So I think a lot of this is just cumulative, and yeah, you're seeing it all come to a head. And maybe Pep is a little bit too big-headed to think that it would come to him in the end, but it is, and I don't have sympathy for him.
No, Chris, they're not in a title race. They're simply not. You know, you can look back at City teams from years gone by and you go, they could do 50 in a row here. But they're not doing that, Chris, are they? They're simply not in this title race. They're only in there because they're the current reigning champions. Other than that, I wouldn't have had them near this show. But they're probably the biggest story of the season, bar Liverpool.
The struggle to do 15 minutes at the moment, I think 15 games. Do you know what? I generally with City, I couldn't care less. Yeah. Guess what? This is actually what most normal teams go through, which is they come to an end of a cycle and you have to start again. Ferguson had to do that quite a few times. End of cycles. Ferguson was very good that he caught them early, and normally he didn't take as long. You know, Klopp sort of revamped Liverpool. The last one he probably caught a year too late with the midfield.
Fair.
But you know, he turned it around just probably a year too late, and he got Liverpool back into a decent position before he left, so that when Slot took over, he was in the right place. To me, they just they haven't planned well enough ahead. They have been the poster boys of FFP for the last 4 or 5 years because they've been playing the game. But I think the game of selling the youth players that they've sold for big money, and it's a PSR loophole which every club can use, so it's nothing, you know, not incriminating or anything like that. But you look at the players they've sold. You didn't have to sell Cole Palmer. You know, there's quite a few players, you know, the centre-back at Southampton. I think he's Roy Keane's son-in-law. He was there. You know, there's loads of... You know, Lavia. You didn't have to sell any of them. You could have developed them and kept them. As much as he is a downgrade, you didn't have to loan out Calvin Phillips. You know, you didn't have to bring back Gundogan, who was a great for them, but he's 2 years older since he left them and looks 2 years older in the legs. And that's not his fault. That's just Father Time. He catches up with everyone. So, tough. Suck it up. You know, and I think they've also got the problem that I think we saw in the year the legs fell out the team, is it takes a while for players who are used to winning things or going to win things to go, you're just in a top 4 race. And sometimes it takes a while for players to get into that mindset of, you're just in a top 4 race, you're not in a title race. And I think that little bit of wallowing takes a while to set in, but Sodom, it's quite good fun to see. Welcome to the real world. This is what it's like for most clubs.
Yeah, you've put it perfectly. But like, I wanted to mention Forest and I wanted to mention Bournemouth because they've been
excellent.
Yeah, they have been excellent, and Bournemouth especially. I think someone was telling me over the calendar year Bournemouth might be the 4th best team in the Premier League. I think I read that somewhere. For points gained and stuff like that. And Forest have done a complete 180 on where they were last season. I thought they were terrible last season, and they've come out this season. I think they've won 10 of their first 17. And you know, they played Spurs at the weekend. They just set up like they were away to Spurs, and you know, just frustrated them and got the goal and got out of there, you know, and to the point where Spurs were having fellas sent off. Jed Spence, funny enough, that got promoted with Forest, I think, 2 seasons ago. And they've done really well, but I think this might be City's saving grace, because currently you have Liverpool first, Arsenal gone into second tonight, Chelsea third, I think Forest are fourth, I think Bournemouth are fifth,
Newcastle are fifth, and
Bournemouth sixth, and
they're tied on points though.
City seventh.
Yeah.
I think this might be the saving grace for Man City, that Bournemouth and Forest are in there. I think if you'd have thrown a Spurs up there along with Newcastle and giving them one spot to kind of chase at, it might be difficult. But the fact that there's two of them up there in the top six, I think that might be their saving grace this season, because the way they're going, I don't think it's not beyond the realms of possibility that City don't make the top five in this league this season. And that's the God honest truth, because I wouldn't mind if they were 12 games into this run and I think they've lost many of their last 12. Someone will tell me, right? Like 9 of their last. They haven't won in 13. I think they have one draw.
One win in 13 they've got.
Yeah, and there's a draw somewhere in that as well, in 15 or something like that, which was the weekend, right? But usually you'll see sparks of life, and you go on a run, you'll win 2 in a row, you might lose them, then you go and you'll win a couple, you might lose or draw one, and you'll see sparks of life. But this is just non-stop. This is relentless stuff from them, and it will get to the stage where players will turn into January and go, this is all bollocks. And I'm only interested in the Champions League now. We can't win this league, let's just look at the Champions League.
I was literally going to say that, because I was looking at the Champions League where they are at the minute. They got 2 games left to go. Their next game is against PSG, and they finish up at home to Bruges. And that looks to me like a game they'll have to win, because as it stands at the minute, I think they're 22nd, and they're a point clear of PSG, who are outside of the top 24.
Yeah.
And they have to go to Paris. And in the form that they're in, PSG are 10 points clear at the top of their league. It wouldn't surprise me if PSG turn them over at their place. It just depends on other results, and they might have to win against Bruges on the last game to get into the top 24, which throws up a massive mouth-watering tie to any of the sides who are finishing in the top 3 or 4.
They can't get top 8 now, can they?
No, oh God, no! They're miles off it.
No, so they could end up with Real Madrid in the last 16.
They could end up with us.
Yeah. Well, they'd have to win their. They have to
play a playoff game first.
They'd have to play a playoff game first.
They're definitely going to be into the playoffs.
If they get into that's if they get in there. If they get in there, you could end up with them getting Real Madrid, or them and PSG draw and win the last game and both get through and they end up getting each other. So that's why the Champions League is based like that. It's just going to be it's just an open fucking goal for anybody to go and just go, here, these are playing him and that's it. The sort of way. Just
their
quickly,
biggest problem is they can't score goals. It's as simple as that. Yeah. They cannot score goals, and it doesn't matter who's ahead of them in the table. I mean, we'll get to the others in a minute.
Well, I'd have taken your man Savinho off after 20 minutes.
Forwards scoring right now.
But I'd have taken Savinho off after 20 minutes today. Mm-hmm. He had. I'm not messing with you when I say he had a half dozen chances to shoot on Saturday. The half 12 kickoff, or not Saturday, would have been fucking, what day was it? Thursday.
Lost the days.
Yeah, whatever day it was, right? But honestly, he had a half dozen chances to shoot. Opened up his body.
He hasn't any goals yet.
But that's what I'm saying. He just doesn't shoot. I'd have taken him out and said, listen, if you're not going to shoot, sit on the bench there and I'll put fucking Grealish on or someone that might shoot. But just quickly around the table, as it stands now, do they make top 5? Where do you think they finish, I suppose, the question. Kev?
I think they'll get top 5. I think they'll finish 5th.
Okay.
Unless they go and spend proper money in January with quality. And even then, their confidence is on the floor. They really have a massive job to turn this around.
Okay. 5th for Kev. Ashley?
I mean, statistically speaking, they still are giving them a 25% chance of getting 3rd, which I find hard to believe. I think they might squeak in at 4th. I think the thing with them is that although they're in this awful run of form right now, I think they're the only team in this league that can put 10 wins together, like one after another. And that's crazy to think because they are also doing that in the losing category right now. But I still think that if something clicks, if they find the right mix of midfielder, that they could put a run together. But I mean, I'm grasping at straws there. I think 4th or 5th sounds about right for them.
Okay. Sam reckons they get second. Chris?
Current squad, and they don't add to it. 6th.
Okay.
I don't think they'll get Champions League. I think they'll be in the Europa League. Because who also is on level points is Villa.
Yeah.
And Villa have been up and down, but I just feel like at least with Villa you can see signs of what they can do, and I think that's just them getting the balance right. And they've got a solid base to work from, which City aren't working with. So I could actually see Villa leapfrogging them and nicking 5th. And I think Newcastle will probably hold on to 4th because they haven't got any midweek fixtures. And just looking at City's fixture list, the playoff, it's the FA Cup, playoff, Newcastle at home. And then for the second playoff, they've got us at their place straight afterwards. And then they go to Spurs away. So it's not like a period where sometimes the luck of the draw falls for you and you go, actually, you're in the playoffs. But we've got Ipswich at home, Southampton away, and, winnable games. They've got like teams that are in and around them. Yeah. So on current form, I'd say 6 because I can't actually see when they string a run together.
Yeah. I still think the most damning thing about Man City is they're 5 points ahead of Manchester United. That's the truth. And that's the most damning thing of it all. Like Manchester United are absolutely... I'm not even getting into Manchester United. I think they're absolutely putrid. I think... I was saying it last night. I feel a bit sorry for Ruben Amorim as a person coming in there, because them players should be absolutely busting a gut to show him what they can do, and they're just wandering around the place going, we're not used to this formation, don't worry about it. And your captain's going around getting sent off and all. It's madness. But on the other side of that, they're 8 points off second, and they're 8 points off Arsenal. I don't think they'll overhaul Arsenal, and I don't think they'll overhaul Chelsea. To be fair, I think Chelsea and Arsenal get enough points. I'd put them into 4th. And I think Newcastle might take 5th. And then Bournemouth and Forest will have really good seasons, but I think they just go over the line. Newcastle have no European football, which is a huge bonus for them. Moving on, Chelsea. Ashley, I'll start with you first. Get the ball to Cole Palmer and see what happens. Seems to be Chelsea's thing, and it's worked really well. He's an outstanding footballer. The goal he gets at the weekend is brilliant. The touch, the movement, the waiting players, giving the keeper and defenders the eyes and slotting it down one side of them, it was brilliant. But Fulham are well in that game, and I think when you give Chelsea the ball and don't allow Cole Palmer to be the centre of what they're doing, I think they struggle. And I think Liverpool showed that at Anfield earlier in the season when we gave up possession and went, here, you can have it, but you're not getting it to Cole Palmer. Let's see how you get on. And Liverpool beat them, and I think was very, very merited on the day to beat them. Fulham stayed in that game yesterday, and when I say stayed, I don't think that's doing them enough credit. I think when you look at it, we were saying this last night, corners, passes, shots, attempts, whatever it might be, they were right up there with Chelsea. It was a very, very even game of football, and then they killed Chelsea with 2 goals, one on the break at the end. Was that a sign? Is it a blip for you for Chelsea, or is it a sign that, listen, they're doing really well, but where they're sitting now is probably where they end up?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing ultimately with them is that they're very young, and they're a team full of talent. Everywhere across the pitch, they've recruited multi-million-dollar players, and eventually you expect them to click. And I think that where they're performing now is kind of where they should be performing. I'm surprised by Maresca. I think that he's done better than I thought. I think that what he's done is he's turned a basket case into an actual functioning football team, which I didn't see coming.
Yeah.
So credit where credit is due there, because that's hard. But at the same time, he has so much at his disposal. Like, if one player falls out of favor, he has 7 others that can take that spot. And, so he has all the tools. I think with them, it's just ultimately, I don't think they have the leaders to kind of pull them over the line. And I don't think they have the character yet to like grind this out in the way that I think Liverpool is going to make teams grind it out. I think that they're very talented, but I do think that, if you shut Cole Palmer down, they will struggle. And I think that some of the choices they made, especially in the Fulham game, like I felt like they sat off Fulham and they didn't need to. I don't know if that was, Fulham did a really good job of pegging them back, but I just kind of expected them to have a little bit more courage. And I don't know if having the spotlight on them all of a sudden, oh, you're in a title race. I don't know if they're ready for that.
I think I agree with you. And the reason being is because I think if Liverpool aren't in this league or aren't performing like this, I think Chelsea are absolutely in a title race. Because similar reasons why I think City can get back in and you know, get at Arsenal and Chelsea to a certain extent. I think if Liverpool aren't performing, if Liverpool are 6 points less off than they were, I think Chelsea are absolutely in a title race, because that means that Liverpool would have been shown some sort of, you know, flaky behaviour as it goes on. But the Liverpool aren't. And I think just frailty's being shown by everybody, you know, bar Liverpool probably at the moment. And Chelsea have taken advantage of this by, like, you have to remember, they were 10th or 11th last season, were they? Or did he finish? No, they finished about 8, didn't they? Because they got Europa Conference or whatever.
They're in their weird conference.
Yeah,
thing.
and the thing is, like, you look at them, and Maresca has done well, because Maresca's gone in and went, listen, I don't really give a fuck if you have 40 players. I don't want 40. Give me 21 players. I'm going to tell you which ones they are, and the rest you can do whatever you want with. I'm not interested. Put them in the Europa Conference squad, whatever. This is my team, and that's why he's made it into a functioning team, because he's absolutely drawn a line under. You know, remember Pochettino didn't know half the name of the players and stuff. It was bananas, like. But I think they will be in a league title race. But I think yesterday showed that. I think Liverpool or Arsenal win that game yesterday, right? Because I think Liverpool or Arsenal go 1-0 up, and they stay on Fulham, and they stay on Fulham, and they stay on Fulham till they get a second, and then they might sit off and go
better with 10 men than they played with 11.
Yeah, and we played 90 minutes against Fulham and dominated them, to be fair, with 10 men. But I think that's where the difference is. I think you need to have that killer instinct when you're 1-0 up against a good side in Fulham, managed well by Marco Silva, where you just go, listen, keep on them. When we get a second, we might sit back in, we might make a couple of changes, and then we'll bring on, someone mentioned Madueke there, we bring him on and we'll just hit them on the break when we need to. We'll expose them that way, because they will get desperate. But Fulham could always stay in the game at 1-0. Loads of teams do that. 1-0 doesn't bother them. They'll continue doing what they're doing. And when Chelsea sit off, of course, Fulham get back into it. But, Chris, you do have to give them plenty of credit. Like, as much as they're bananas, they are fucking mad what they're at, right? They're selling hotels. It's all sorts of madness going on at that club. But they've brought in this guy who seems to have, like I said, just gone, there's me players, everyone else fuck off. He has got them playing well, and you have to give them credit. I think circumstances in the league has helped them a little bit, but they've done really well. And they're taking advantage of issues for other clubs around them. And that can only be good for them in the future. And what I mean by that is probably into next season where they go, we finished second or third there, lads. And we have loads of like young players in this team that can get better. They're a real threat. I think they're a real threat for people looking to get top 4 this season, or top 5. I think they're nearly a dead cert now. And I think they're a threat for people going into, you know, further down the road next year and the years beyond, if they keep this 21 together and probably add some to it as well.
Yeah, I mean, you know, they should be really good when you spend £1 billion.
Yeah.
You know, as I can't get behind the vitriol that, oh, it's that exciting young team. Well, you know, if you buy 40 players and you spend £1 billion, at some point you'd like to thought you bought some good ones. You know, they're doing well for where they are. I don't think they will win the title. The shades of 13-14 Liverpool about them, which is they are generally, you know, exciting going forward, but defensively and the goalkeeper isn't up to scratch yet, which is mad because they've bought about 7 goalkeepers, so they should have sure they've got a better one than the one they've got. I think Chelsea will be a coming force.
They've a better one playing for Bournemouth.
Probably,
is he still a Chelsea player? Is he still playing for Bournemouth? Yeah. He's still a Chelsea player.
He's like the most expensive goalkeeper in the world.
Yeah, and he's a better goalkeeper than your man Sanchez, without a shadow of a doubt.
That's what I mean. So, but I'm sorry, I'm being a bit glib about them, but in general, though, I do think in the coming years they will be one of those sides to worry about, because the average age of the side is 24. It's pretty young. They're only going to sell players they don't want because they're all on 8-year contracts, so no one's really going to try and sort of pull that side apart. So, you know, the good ones they can keep together. Where they might come a cropper is off the field stuff, which is, what if it doesn't work? What if you've spent stupid money, you know, Joe Felix, who you had a loan, didn't work, went on loan to Barcelona, didn't work, so you bought him for 60 million and now you're trying to fuck him off now after 6 months. At some point, If you do too many of them, that's going to catch up with you. So that's the thing that could catch
I
him out.
genuinely do forget he plays for them.
I think so does Maresca. That's why he's probably happy to load him out. But yeah, you can't keep buying players 60 million and not using them, because eventually at some point, as much as people don't believe it, the PSR thing will eventually bite you in the arse. So, but do I think they'll be? I think they'll finish third this year. Because looking at their form, away form, they've got the same points as us away from home, but they played a game more. Home form, they're 8th, and that's where their problem is. They're not turning the home dominance into wins. It's a lot of draws.
I don't even know if it's home dominance. I think this team struggles when it's asked to be on the front foot against teams. That's where I think it struggles. I think if a game is stretched and another team is willing to come out and play them, I think they find gaps, and that's where Parma gets involved. But when I watch Chelsea, I seem to think if you're clever in the way you fill spaces and make sure you fill those spaces that the ball can't get to Parma, I think they do really, really struggle. But third place, I think Chelsea be delighted with that. Don't get me wrong, because Chelsea, I think Chelsea fans are there. We go, no, we can win this title, and why not? Like, that's what you're in it for. But my opinion would be, I would probably say third, and I think they'd be more than happy with that. It'd be brilliant progression after what's been a fucking insane year, and there's probably more to come off the back of the financial stuff.
If they got third in Europa Conference for Maresca year one, what more do you want?
Yeah.
You know,
I think
the
if you
pressure
ask
will be
their fans, that's probably where they think. If at the beginning of this season, if you had asked their fans, "What's your ideal dream scenario?" they probably would have said that's where they expect to be.
Yeah.
The challenge will be next year, because there'll be more pressure than next year, because people go, these were title challenges last year. They fell away a little bit and finished third. So teams will treat them differently. Teams will treat them like the basket case that they were portraying in the media. Teams treat, look, these are a serious side. What you've got to do is do what we did when Newcastle got Champions League, which is give them the ball, go, right, okay, break us down.
Yeah.
And see how that works for you. And Newcastle found when they had to juggle Champions League and Premier League, and people were giving them the ball and say, you drive it, hurt them. Newcastle had to adapt slightly.
Yeah. Kev, Chris thinks third. I'm not too sure where that actually gave us a position. But for you, is it third, and that's a good season for Chelsea? Or are they still a danger?
I think they're massively...
You what?
No, I think they're massively punching above their weight. Punching above their weight.
Okay.
Pochettino finished the season really well. I mean, people forget that. And there was a lot of angst when he got sacked. Maresca's come in. He's sorted the dressing room out. He's calmed the madness. He's developed a style of play. And he looks like he's there for the long haul. It'd be interesting to see if Bowley will stick with him, because he doesn't really have a track record of sticking with managers for long enough for them to get the turnaround eventually. But I think they'd be over the moon if they get finished third this season, because they'd have assumed Man City are going to win the league, because it's what they do. They'd have assumed Arsenal will be the next challengers. And if they thought they were going to finish above us this season, that would have been a huge success for them. Bear in mind, the average age of the squad is one of the youngest in the league. And it was a basket case at the start of the season. I don't think anyone at the start of the season credibly would have put them in the top 4. Not a hope. Nicholas Jackson couldn't hit a barn door. And he's turned out he's developed into a really decent forward now. Cole Palmer, we've seen the talent there. But there's other players contributing. The midfield pairing, or the midfield trio, really, of Fernandes, Caicedo, and Lavia when he was available, that looked really strong, really good. They look a bit dodgy at the back. They can be got at. But again, they're young, and I think there'll be a problem in a couple of years' time.
Yeah.
But there's a distinct lack of leaders in the dressing room. And I think it's the problem that squad and that philosophy of buying vacuuming up young talent from around Europe is going to have until that talent nurtures and develops.
Yeah. Third for you?
He simply would refuse to go out and buy experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be massive. If they finish third, it'd be huge.
Yeah. I think third would be massive as well. On to Arsenal. They've won tonight. They're now 6 points behind Liverpool. Liverpool have a game in hand. If they win that game in hand, they'll be 9 points clear of Arsenal, 10 points clear of Chelsea. And Chris, I'm going to start with you. They win 1-0 tonight, and Kev made a very good point in WhatsApp group I'm in with him, and he said they're in the fear zone. They're 1-0 up against Ipswich. Ipswich haven't done much, but Arsenal are in the fear zone where you feel they're thinking, if we make one more mess up here, we're done. And one more mess up potentially puts them 12 points behind Liverpool at the halfway point of the season. But for you, looking at Arsenal, where they are, the squad they have, Saka's a big loss for them. Are they going to win this title, Arsenal?
No, I think they'll finish second.
Okay.
I think they can win the title because they've got the talent to do it. Do I think they will? No, because I think they've got a weakness which is called Mikel Arteta, and I think Henry nailed him perfectly, which he said there are two sides in this title race, Liverpool and Arsenal. One side looks to try and find a way to win. One side looks to try and find a way not to lose. And he says the latter, he says, will always catch you out eventually because you have to be brave eventually to win a league. And I just feel some of the drop points, they've got into their own heads a little bit. I think because they thought they were chasing peak City, which didn't come. But they got into their own heads, 1-0 against Brighton with 10 men. They could have seen it out, drew 1-1. 0-0 against Bournemouth, go down to 10 men. And what's his reaction is, I'll take a forward off, bring another one of my 12 defenders on, and sit back and hope we hit them on the break.
Yep.
Whereas, listen, Liverpool got a draw, we did beat Fulham. What did Liverpool do? We'll drop our DM to centre-back, and we'll keep attacking you, and we'll keep putting the threat on because...
Yeah, we just play a 3-2-4 or something and see how
But we also know we're going to dominate the ball. And guys, if we go... God forbid, we go into Bournemouth, we go down to 10 men again, they'll still have 3 forwards on, still be looking to hit them on the break. You just pick your moments.
Yeah.
The maddest thing I thought, and again with the 1-1 with City, the maddest thing I thought he did was every time there's adversity, he always takes a forward off and he always takes the pace out the side and makes them slower.
Yeah.
And I think as soon as you make a side slower, it makes life easier. The best thing, because the worst thing that happened to Fulham when we played them was, but we can't push too high wide because Diaz and Salah will just kill us on the break, and they did. And City at their best when they're down to 10 men used to go, but Mahrez and Sterling will kill you. And I can't believe whenever he has that option, he barely uses Raheem Sterling. Now he's injured, and now he's wondering what I'm going to do. And this is the same problem he had last year, which was he ran key players into the ground, and then he threw lads in. He got, God, these aren't ready. But then play for 6 weeks. I don't think he rotated better this year, but not as well. And also, to be honest, I hope we don't win because their online fan base is, honestly, it's absolutely mental. I mean, I thought Liverpool's online fan base was pretty tetchy when they were going for titles with City, but this is different levels of conspiracy I've never seen. Now, apparently every team is knackered when they play us. It never happens to anybody else. I was thinking, I'm pretty certain Arsenal had this luck last year and didn't take it. It's an unfounded arrogance that I think they have, which is, and let's call it as it is, the last time you won a title was 20 years ago. Yes, it was the Invincibles. You haven't done a jot in the league since then. You've been in and out of Europe. You've had a couple of FA Cup wins, which we'd all love an FA Cup win, so I'm not disparaging it, but the 2 big trophies are the Champions League and the league, and you've done fuck all of them in the last 20 years. And the Champions League, you've done one good run in your entire existence. So I just don't think Arsenal are brave enough when it comes to the crunch.
I think I agree with you, but I still look and I still think to myself, it's on, for me, it's on a knife edge of putting them to bed or them getting a lot of fucking traction off one result. And what I mean by that is, if Liverpool go out and beat West Ham on is a Sunday, it could be any day.
Sunday.
That's Sunday.
Yeah, it's Sunday, yeah.
If Liverpool go out there and put 9 points between them with a game in hand, no, it'd be 9 points, same amount of games played, won't it? They play whoever then, Brentford or something.
Brentford away on New Year's Day.
If they go out and they put 9 points on them and Arsenal draw, it's 8 points with a game in hand, it's 11. And then it'd be 11 and possibly 10 to Chelsea. It's on that knife edge. And Kev, the knife edge is, if Arsenal make a mess of something before we do, i.e. draw a game, or God forbid lose a game, I think they're gone. Because At 9, I can see your point where you might get this back to 6, and then you have to still play them, and that's 3, and then you have to better them by one result somewhere, and you can kind of do all those maths in your head. And in fairness, Paul Merson made this point a while back, and Paul Merson's mental, but he actually said they have to get that difference. At the time, I think it might have been 9 points. He said they need to get that to 6 before it goes to 12, and that still stands, Kev, because if that goes to 12, same amount of games played, 12 points. They're done. They're simply done.
Listen, I'm sat here looking at it now. They've played 18, won 10, drawn 6, lost 2.
Oh, by the way, the Invincibles failed to win 30% of their league games that season.
Yeah. Draws kill you.
They got a goal trophy there.
Yeah, draws kill you. And
hangs his keys.
They're 6 points. They're 6 points off us. We have the game in hand. Forget about the game in hand in a minute, because their hope will be to match pace with us. Hope we drop points and they can capitalise on it. They know they'll have to come to Anfield and win. That gets it down to 3 points with the game in hand. And then it's only one mistake. One mistake by us that they capitalise on, and then you're putting everything on the game in hand. That's how close it could be. The flip side of it is what I saw tonight against Ipswich. Got to about 60. It was about 65 minutes when I put that comment in. And for the entirety of the first half, Arsenal dominated the ball, so like 73% of the ball, and they just couldn't get that second goal. They come out in the second half, and for about 10 minutes, it was to and fro. It was close enough on possession. And then Ipswich had a spell. 2 or 3 corners, they had a corner and some decent possession, and then a switch flipped for Arteta. He took off Jesus and brought on Moreno.
Another midfielder, yeah.
Yeah, that was shut up shop. And from then on, it was Odegaard going down, faking head injuries. It was, he took a nasty injury, but he played on with it. It looked like his ankle folded underneath him. But I think the reality of where Arsenal were was exposed tonight in that one game, because they know they cannot afford to drop a single point anymore for the rest of this season, because we're not going to stop. And even if we pick up a few draws here and there, we might lose the odd couple of games. But they have the potential to lose and draw a few more. I was looking at their run-in that they have now over the next month, okay? And you got Brentford away, Brighton away, their next 2 games. Then they're into League Cup semi-final with Newcastle, Manchester United in the Cup, Arsenal against Spurs on the 15th of January, Arsenal against Villa on the 18th of January, and then they're into the Champions League. So they're not kind fixtures by any stretch of the imagination. His squad is, I wouldn't say is thin, but he's at a point now where I think he might have to look at the cups and decide, okay, do I want to finish this season with a cup in the back pocket, and hopefully Liverpool might mess up, or he's going to have to start worrying about where he's going to start protecting players. And I think January is massive for them. It really is. But as I said, one mistake, and mentally it's gone. It's not. The thing is with last season they were ahead, and City were chasing them for large parts of that season.
Yeah, but I always felt like City had a game in hand and could pull it back to 2 points all the time. This isn't.
Yeah, it was close
12.
though.
Yeah, it was close. Yeah,
it was like, you're in it. Everyone is talking about it. This season feels different. It's like with Chelsea. Chelsea, the last couple of weeks was the first time that anyone actually really talked about them in any meaningful way as being in a title chase. And the first sign of people talking about them, the first sign of real pressure, you go and play Everton, where you have to go and do something, and you don't. And they're gone. They're out of it. On the strength of that one, or their last 2 games, really. They've dropped, 4 points in their last 2 games?
Yeah. 5.
They're done. 5 in their last 2 games, they're done. Arsenal are in that boat now. One mistake. And they're not exactly playing poor side. Brentford at home are a problem. They can be a difficult nut.
Yeah, we have them as well soon.
And Brighton can be a handful for anybody.
Yeah.
So And these are games that they have to win.
Yeah.
No ifs, ands, or buts. They have to win.
I think Arsenal have 20 games left, have they? I think Arsenal have the 20 games
20
left?
games left, yeah. Yeah, 20
And
games
they can
left. We're
currently-
almost at the halfway stage. We're
They can hit
almost at the
96
halfway
points, is that right?
23 is 60. They
Yeah.
can hit 96.
Have they played 18 games, Arsenal?
They have played 18, yeah.
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 So they've 20
There's 60
games
points
left.
up to grab for them.
So 96. So in order to hit 90, they have to win 18
They've got two losses. They basically do a drop.
win
They
18
have
and
to
lose 2.
18 out of 20. So, like, statistically speaking, right now, I don't know, doesn't factor in tonight's win. Right now, they have a 55% win rate. And in order to hit 90 points this season, they need to average 2.71 points per game. So that, before tonight, was 19 wins from 21 matches. So it's 18 wins now from 20 matches. So they have to be basically flawless. I mean, right now, I feel like our team is pretty much flawless, and we're at 2.47 points per game. So it would be even better than what we're doing right now. And we've only lost one game all year. So I just don't see that happening. And I think the pressure of having to be perfect. I mean, you look at our team, they look like they're having fun. Like, they look like they're having a good time playing football. I look at Arsenal, and they look like they're walking on eggshells 99% of the time. They do not look like they're having fun. And I think they haven't gotten that big win that they need to kind of solidify themselves and have that confidence that our team has. And that, I think, is their biggest downfall. I genuinely think they're always going to fall back into that safety first mentality, which for me is not how you win a title. And I think that's ultimately going to be their downfall. And I mean, it may get them these squirrely 1-0 wins against Ipswich, but really they should be winning by more than just 1-0 against Ipswich. They didn't look terribly convincing to me. I thought, they could have gone for the kill today, and they didn't. And I think that's going to be their downfall. I do not see them being perfect, until the end of the season.
Well, let me ask you this, Ashley, because I'll leave the final word to Arsenal to you. Kev's mentioned there, the sort of fixtures they have in the new year, and they've got League Cup games against Newcastle, which will be mental. Newcastle are just mad. Gomeras and Joelinton will be going around with hatchets, just taking people out, because that's how they roll. But you have that.
Right.
You have the Champions League, which they will be in the top 8, I think. They more than certainly will be. I think they might be third or fourth in the table at the minute. But you look at that and you say to themselves, when does it kick in? A bit like we spoke with City earlier. And look, I'm not writing off Arsenal completely, because you never know. Liverpool could draw 2 games here. Arsenal could win 2. Next of all, there's 4 points. 9 has gone down to 5, and it's like, well, hold on a minute, we're still fucking only 20 games into the season, whatever it might be. Just on the evidence of the season so far, I don't think Arsenal will do more than Liverpool. But at what stage do Arsenal kind of turn and go, listen, we can't keep this up, because we've lost Saka, players aren't in the best of form, whatever it might be. We lose a league. If they lose a league game and draw a league game in the next 5, okay?
I mean, like, looking at their schedule, for example, like, their next 5 aren't easy, but I think I don't know, their February looks awful.
But if they say for argument's sake, their next 5, if Liverpool's next 5, right, is West Ham, Manchester United at home, I think it's Forest away, Brentford away, and there's another home game in there somewhere, right? If Liverpool were to go and take 13 points out of that 15, right, and Arsenal were to draw 2 games, all of a sudden that 9 is now 11. And Liverpool haven't been perfect, but they're now 11 clear. You know, the sort of way. This is my question to you. When do Arsenal turn at some stage and go, lads, this has gone to 11 points, or it's been at 9 for an awful long time, and we're absolutely at our limit here, and we've a Champions League over here we could possibly win. There's an FA Cup still there, there's a League Cup still there, there's loads still there. When did he turn around and go, we have to sacrifice something in this league here because we've a semi-final and we've a possible quarter-final in the Champions League? When did he do that, Ashley?
Just to give you a bit of breaking news, apparently Arteta has just confirmed Saka had surgery on his hamstring. He's going to be out for more than 2 months.
Oh, wow.
That is a massive, massive injury for them.
Wow, an operation on that.
So that was like a Harry Kane level like his
That's like
hamstring,
that's like the worst.
That's a tear off a bone, yeah.
like a
That-
grade 3, I think, or something.
Grade 3 said that was like the worst they could have had. Really.
It's the worst it can be. Yeah, and hamstrings are one of those things. When they go consistently after that. I don't know. I mean, I think, if you were to ask Arteta, he would say that, the most that we can do is try to keep Liverpool honest. And I think that that's kind of what a lot of the teams that are competing right now, that would be their answer. I think, they're an Odegaard injury away from just dropping off a cliff if that Saka news is true. I don't know. I don't think Arteta I don't think he would call it like that. I don't think he would switch gears like that. I think he would try to push it till the end. I don't think their fans would let him call it like that. But
maybe it's beyond his control to call it like that. Maybe it's just a case of natural progression means, lads, we are so fucking tired for this league game at the weekend. I have to put some of these players in and risk it, and it might not come off. And Arsenal, and you can turn to Arsenal fans and say, listen, yeah, we tried something on Saturday, it didn't work, but we've a big quarter final in the Champions League here against Borussia Dortmund, and we needed to have players ready for that.
Doing that though? I guess that's my question, because
maybe not. Maybe he just plays them.
Might be their downfall.
Maybe he just plays them all in the 2 games and loses both. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. I mean, I think that a better coach would maybe pick and choose and maybe rotate some of the players that haven't gotten a lot of game time. But I haven't seen Arteta do that. I haven't seen him be brave enough to bring in academy players. I mean, there's a few that he's brought in. There's the young kid that he's brought in recently that looks amazing. But in general, I just don't think he's rotated his squad enough to feel like he has that kind of depth of options.
Yeah, and listen, with that Saka news, there might be pressure on him to do something in the January window, even on a loan basis for a wide man, because I don't think their wide men score enough goals outside of Saka, or create enough. Maybe that's the way. But look, Liverpool finally. We speak about Liverpool every day of the week, so I'm not going to go into what we've done because we talk about it every day of the week. I more want to go into what Liverpool should look to do here, what Liverpool need to do. Possibly, just so people know, away to West Ham on Sunday, home to Manchester United, which is a 7-day break, I think, to Manchester United. Then you've Spurs away in the League Cup, you've Accrington at home in the FA Cup, then it's away to Forest, and 4 days later, it's away to Brentford. Then you have a Champions League game, you've home to Ipswich. I'm just bringing this up to Bournemouth, because we're away to Eindhoven and then away to Bournemouth, but those European Cup games don't mean a hell of a lot for Liverpool because of the position they're in. Kev, I'll start with you. Shawnee Lawson said something to me earlier. Said it to a few people in the group, and he said, lads, if Liverpool win their next 6 league games, the league is over. Because he reckons if they beat West Ham, Manchester United, Nottingham Forest, Brentford, Ipswich and Bournemouth, he says the league is over. He said that's it. It's done. Because nobody's taken 18 from 18. Nobody has quite a nasty-ish run like that. And what Liverpool need to do is Liverpool need to put the foot on the throat now and go, we are taking as many possible points from this next 6 where people think it's a slip. Do you agree with that? Is that what Liverpool need to do?
I don't think it'll go that far. I was looking at Arsenal's fixtures, and they've got Spurs in the middle of January. And I think they've got Man City at the first week of February. If we do our job and just keep racking up points, they will crack. They will, and as soon as someone cracks, as soon as that gap gets to double figures, the freight train momentum kicks in. And part of our focus, I think, will likely go towards Europe, as it naturally will. But not that the league they'll have the attitude that the league is done, but the confidence that it brings. Football, especially in this day and age, football is largely about confidence. And confidence and fear. You see it with Arsenal, and to an extent with Chelsea, how they're chasing. They know that the gap is so big now that one mistake and it could be over. It could be over in a week. And that's the truth. And it's not a case. I said this back in November when we had the gap. the problem that I see for other sides is we're not going to drop enough points, and they're not good enough to get the points that they need at the same time. It's like if we win our next 5 and they keep pace, they're running out of games first and foremost. And we're at a stage that we have to drop 3 losses just for them to catch up, and then we have to lose to them for them to go ahead of us. We play Arsenal on the 10th of May.
It's at Anfield
this league,
too.
Yeah, this league will be well and truly done by Easter. This will be over by Easter. Easter's in April this year. This league will be over by April.
Isn't it mad how they just make up when Easter is?
I know, isn't it? It was funny enough because the kids.
You just ring
the kids
some woman
around,
in an office and they go, Mary, what Sunday do you fancy this year for Easter? And she goes, well, I'm at a wedding that weekend, so if you can put on the next one, it'd be great.
Because all it was the kids turned around for Christmas and they bought us a trip to go to Poland in March, at the end of March. And I was like, delighted, great, thank you very much and all that. When is Easter? Because if that's around Easter, that's going to be absolute mayhem. Yeah. But no, it's not. And I looked it up. Easter is, I think, mid-April.
Kev, you're shouting at me. You're shouting mid-April at me here. I might start booking flights and stuff.
I'm telling you.
I'll just tell my wife. I'll just say, look, Kev said it's going to happen. Like, he's literally.
In fairness,
he's had a seance. He's done all the fucking research.
But when you do the maths of it, can you see us dropping
Kev, I don't need
4
maths,
losses?
Bud. I don't need maths, right? I'm just going to tell her that Kev said
so
it's happening.
Easter weekend is Ipswich. Oh no,
Yeah.
Just kidding. That's Ipswich versus Arsenal. Wait, just kidding. Never mind. Go back to me in a second.
Okay.
But do you know what I mean? I just cannot see us dropping 4 losses.
Leicester.
And I cannot see because I don't think Chelsea are really in the mix. I think Chelsea are there for the ride and they're going to enjoy themselves. I don't think Arsenal can maintain the level of run that's needed, and I cannot see the drop off from us unless we have and it's possible, unless we have a Tottenham level event. And even then, because Arne Slot is such a better manager than Ange Postecoglou, he will navigate a way through it. Do you know what I mean? So I just cannot see how or where we lose 4 games fast enough for them to keep up.
Yeah,
it's as simple as that.
I think it's a very it's a well thought way of thinking of it. As much as you think can Liverpool match what they've done in the first half of the season, they probably don't need to match what they've done. They probably need to be 3 or 4 points less off in the second half of the season than they are in the first, and they'll still do enough because other teams won't get there. Chris, where do you want this? Do you want to get out the other side of, do you want to get into the 1st of February and you're still 9 points clear? Or do you think Liverpool have an opportunity here to be more than that clear? And if they're more than that clear on the 4th of February, like Kev said, it won't be long about being over.
I'm thinking end of Jan. End of Jan, we'll all be saying it's not mathematical, but it's realistically done. Right. If we carry on the way we're going.
Yeah.
The only thing that's going to derail us is, God forbid, losing somebody big and key for a long period, and you've got to adapt your style. But as Kev said, Slot seems to be quite adept at doing that. And if this contract stuff becomes a distraction, which the Klopp thing from March probably did become a distraction because we hit a bit of a rut, and it's the easy thing to fall back on. So that's the only thing I'd like by the end of Jan is those 3 lads sorted one way or the other. Even if it's, look, they're all going in the summer. Right, fine. It's not great, but we know, and then we move on. At some point, that uncertainty is going to start to creep in and start to annoy things. Also, to be honest, it'll also stop our fan base going berserkio every time someone tweets, it's going to get announced on Christmas Day. Do you remember everyone thought it was going to? I was thinking, because they'll announce it Christmas Day when all the journalists are on holiday, won't they? Because it's not how it works. It's not how it works. It's not.
So you're looking at the end of January as well. And Liverpool, I think the overriding thing here is that Liverpool just need to keep their head, keep going as they're going. And if they keep turning over close to the amount of points per game they're doing now, like Kev said, the other teams probably don't have it in them to step up. And they haven't shown the evidence of that yet. And people will come back and say, you said this, and they actually turned out Arsenal won fucking 10 in a row. Yeah, but the evidence isn't there as of now that they will. The Saka thing is... Yeah, the Saka thing is...
It's breaking their will now, isn't it?
Yeah, and the Saka thing is huge news. Ashley, I think we all believe Liverpool can win this title. They're in a great position to win this title. They have got some tricky fixtures coming up, but they have that kind of buffer of the Champions League games being, a fairly handy FA Cup draw. They have a League Cup semi-final that you'd fancy them in, and they've Champions League games that, they can rest players for. So they're able to kind of factor this into the league games are coming. Is it just same as here? Just keep going the way you're going. Don't worry about anything else outside. Because I think if Liverpool keep going the way they're going, I think the rest outside will take care of itself.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's very much like blinkers on time for Liverpool, where, you do your own business and you focus on your team, and that's it. Like, we are the pace setters this year. I think so often the pace setters have been Man City, and I feel like when you're trying to compete with the pace setter, you're always going to feel more drained because that's not your natural cadence. But when we get to be the pace setters, we can do things at our own pace. And I think, I don't know, it's just very refreshing for us to be able to do that. I think the other thing that we have on our side is our injuries seem to be resolving at just the right moment. I think that we have, Ibu and Connor Bradley coming back, not for this game, but potentially for the United in and around that time, which is just another bolster. And I think what's been really interesting is, unlike other times in years past when we've had injuries where they've compounded, I think that we've done a really great job of managing the injuries in a way that we haven't gotten more. I feel like we had the Ibu injury, we had the Connor injury, and we all got really scared that our defense was going to crumble. And we've kind of made it through that in a way that I wasn't expecting. I thought for sure like Robbo was going to fall off a cliff, and that didn't happen. He wasn't great, but we've managed to get to this point. And I think, like, if we can continue to keep that really good squad management going and just, like I said, keep the pace that we feel comfortable doing, I just think that we're too good at this point for the rest of the league to keep up. And I don't mean that in like a condescending way. I just feel like we are setting a pace that other teams can't compete with right now.
I think you're all right in what you're saying. I think that the overriding thing in all this is that without getting too carried away, we're just dealing on the evidence that we've seen before, and we're not asking Liverpool to go out and play swashbuckling 5-0 wins every week. We know there's difficult challenges coming. We know Brentford away, Bournemouth away, Forest away. They'll be difficult. United at home is like, no matter how bad United are, they'll come and try spoil the party in some sort of way. You're going to have, like, there's a mad run of games in I think it's late April, early May, where there's Chelsea, Newcastle, Arsenal, City. It's all going on there for us in the space of about 6 or 7 games. But the overriding thing here is Liverpool just need to keep going about their business. If they can continue over 2 points a game for between now and the end of the season, I think everything else takes care of itself. Because currently, I think Liverpool might be the only team on 2 points per game. I think.
Yeah, we're the only one that's above 2.
Yeah, so there you go. And I think if they stayed on 2, if they average 2 points for the rest of the season, they'd have another 40-something points on top of this, wouldn't they?
Mid-80s would finish.
Yeah, mid-80s, and I don't think anybody's getting there. I think it'd be mad if anybody gets there. That's being honest with you. I think that's it. I think we've covered them all. We've covered the strengths, we've covered the weaknesses, we've covered what Liverpool have to do. Thanks a million to everyone for joining us, all the members. And we will be back soon. Obviously, we'll be back on Sunday after the West Ham game. We'll be back that night as well with the 4 lads on Sunday night. Thanks a million to Ashley. Thanks a million to Kev. Thanks a million to Chris. Thanks a million to everyone in the chat. I hope you're enjoying your Christmas, and we'll see you soon. Over and out.